You want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about sports in the state of Michigan?
You can't handle the truth!
Well, we're giving you the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Stables Media, the show that provides research and statistics about all the Detroit and Michigan sports teams, whether fans like it or not, and detects, exposes, and reveals actual and hidden facts and truth that the mainstream media doesn't want you to know. No junk, no entertainment, no homerism, no slappiness, no coddling, no pop culture, no conspiracy theories, no opinions, no shilling, and no fluff. Head over to our website, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast.com. Follow us on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at Michigan_Truth. And like and share our verified Facebook page, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Also listen to us on Spreaker, CastBox, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts via iTunes, and Spotify. And like Stables Media on Facebook. The Michigan Sports Truth Podcast does not represent or defame any of the teams it covers, nor does it represent or compete against any mainstream media in the state of Michigan. It is also not for entertainment or debating purposes. It only detects, exposes, and reveals honest, actual, and hidden truth, facts, and statistics about them. And it is for every sports fan's own good because the truth is out there.
And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, primetime edition on Stables Media. I'm Taylor Phillips, along with Ed Smith and Darren Weiss. Frank Vashner is out due to an emergency. Prayers to him and his family. Ed Smith, how was your week, and how are you doing tonight? Happy Thanksgiving, by the way.
Thank you, Taylor. First and foremost, by the way, happy Thanksgiving to you as well, and happy Thanksgiving to you, Darren. As for my week, aside from the depravity and aggravating madness that we saw over this past weekend, other than that, my week was just fine. Turkey Day's tomorrow. Obviously, me and my mom are being as distant as we possibly can. As much as we love to spend Thanksgiving with our grandmother, it's, we got to play things safe as much as we can. So thank goodness for technology, all the other good stuff, so we can still video call, still have enjoyment of company in this not so normal of times. But as they say, the game and the show must go on. I can't wait for football and food tomorrow.
Yeah, neither can I. Great to have you back, Darren.
Boys, it's good to be back. I was out of town, and my schedule at work did not align with the shows, but I'm happy to be back. Happy Thanksgiving to you both.
Thank you.
I am happy that college basketball is finally back. That's nice to see, and the NBA is right around the corner, and, we got some football tomorrow, although one game did get postponed. We got football tomorrow on Turkey Day, so, it could be worse.
Man, I can't wait. NHL might be back, too, but follow me on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at DT2Phillips. Follow Ed Smith on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at EdSmith313, and follow Darren Weiss on Twitter at DW33ZYY, and on Instagram at Darren Weiss, the number 8. We're going to talk about a lot of Pistons moves, plus college basketball and college football, and the Lions, of course, plus a Barry Sanders story on the Detroit Lions from ESPN's Michael Rothstein before our closing statement. But before we get started, we want to remind everyone to download the all-new social sports app called Big Hit, which influences more and more people to love sports. Enter the referral code STABLES when you sign up, the capital S and a B in the middle. Download the Big Hit app and enter the referral code STABLES with a capital S and a B in the middle. Available on the Apple App Store and Google Play. So let's get to it, gentlemen. So the Pistons, Frank, Ed, and I covered the NBA draft last week, or most of the first round of the draft. They drafted point guard Killian Hayes from France at 7th overall. They acquired Trevor Ariza in the 16th overall pick, center Isaiah Stewart in a trade with Houston Rockets, who acquired Ariza in a trade with the Portland Trail Blazers beforehand, along with that 16th overall pick, Isaiah Stewart. The Pistons also acquired Rodney Magruder in the 19th overall pick, power forward Sadiq Bey from Villanova, in a 3-team trade, sending Luke Kennard to the Los Angeles Clippers. That Luke Kennard part was surprising to all of us. And then after last week's episode, they acquired center Tony Bradley in the 38th overall pick, point guard Saban Lee from Vanderbilt. Last Thursday, they acquired center Dwayne Dedman from the Atlanta Hawks for Kyrie Thomas and Tony Snell. And then the Pistons decided not to extend center Thon Maker's qualifying offer, making him an unrestricted free agent. Signed center Mason Plumlee from the Denver Nuggets to a 3-year, $25 million contract. And they signed center Jahlil Okafor from the New Orleans Pelicans to a 2-year deal. Not sure how much money he's going to get paid first, but anyway, center Christian Wood leaves and signs a 3-year, $41 million contract with the Rockets. The Pistons signed Nuggets forward Jeremy Grant to a 3-year, $60 million contract, according to Shams Charania. The Pistons then traded Trevor Ariza to the Oklahoma City Thunder and get Dallas Mavericks point guard Delon Wright in a 3-team trade. Oklahoma City also gets Justin Jackson and draft compensation, while Dallas gets James Johnson. Then the Pistons trade center Tony Bradley to the Philadelphia 76ers for guard Zaire Smith. The Pistons then waived center Dwayne Dedman, and then they made the Jeremy Grant deal and signed and trade with the Denver Nuggets for rights to point guard Nikola Radosevich and cash considerations. And they signed undrafted free agent Anthony Lamb from Vermont. And one more, they signed guard Wayne Ellington to a 1-year, $2.6 million contract. Wayne Ellington played with the Pistons in the past. So we're going to go to Ed, and then we're going to go to Darren. Ed, General Manager Troy Weaver was busy over that past week, wasn't he?
Oh, my goodness. You talk about a whirlwind of moves that Troy Weaver was making, essentially from draft night onward. You could say probably you can make a point, argue that he was probably working on these deals well before draft night, making calls up to the last minute. You don't know exactly how well the nitty-gritty went in this process what Troy Weaver was going through, and that's even leading up to draft night. Now when you take a look in consideration the moves that he has made since then, moving on from Luke Kennard, moving on from Bruce Brown, and others as well, which is crazy, because I believe this now makes Blake Griffin officially currently the longest tenured Piston member on the team, which is saying something. The moves that they made, the guys that they brought in, swapped out, waived, flipped. It can be a little confusing a little bit sometimes when you think, oh, wait, they just got Trevor Ariza, now they're dumping him. Oh, wait, they just got this guy, now they're getting rid of this guy. Right. So the Dwayne Dedman, obviously, for instance, would be another example of that. But obviously, I think it's all part of a ideal or a long-term plan for what Troy Weaver may have for this season, or perhaps for the next couple of seasons, because I think he has to recognize that this team, the way it's currently constructed, the way it's and where they're currently slated amongst the Eastern Conference, you're in limbo. You're too bad. You're not bad enough to apparently not bad enough to win the lottery, and obviously you're nowhere near good enough to be considered a playoff team, let alone a potential dark horse contender. Because as we can see in the East, ever since LeBron James left, that really anyone can become a relative contender out of the East. Granted, we know the force that Giannis is on the Bucks, but think about this: they've yet to even make the NBA Finals. Okay, I think. They made the conference final in 2019, and then this year they got bounced in 5 by the eventual conference champion Miami Heat. And let's not forget, in 2019, Toronto won it all. So that's 3 different years. Well, you know what I mean. 2-3 different teams already that has a microcosm of a shot that could potentially do it again, leading up to this season alone. Not to mention you factor in the likes of Boston as well. So I think Troy Weaver recognizing that, knowing where this team is currently at right now, I think he believes, and I've been saying this all along. I think we've been saying this all along, Taylor. The choice, the path is clear. You got to bottom out. So how do you do that? Well, we saw. The plans were put in motion by Ed Stefanski a couple of years last year when he dealt Andre Drummond and he got rid of Reggie Jackson. That was 2 big hurdles, that you thought, man, how are they going to pull this off? How are they going to get someone to buy for him? Well, they bought. Granted, the haul that we got in return probably would not have been to our liking, but still, the fact is, you got something. Otherwise, Drummond was probably going to walk for nothing. And as for Reggie, I'm not really crying any tears over him being departed, especially if you see how so valuable he was for the Los Angeles Clippers this playoff season. Please. But in regards to that, I think what Troy Weaver's going to be focusing on is within 2022, 2023, that type of range, because by then, if he hasn't found a way to trade Blake Griffin by then, Blake's contract's going to come off the books. Lots of money's going to be coming off the books. And around that time, you're going to see more free agents that the Pistons normally in years past didn't have a shot, nowhere near a chance in hell to get. You could say, hey, see the young pieces, the young guys that we got here. You see what we're starting to build right now in the upcoming draft, hopefully. I'm not saying immediate future, but let's say 3-ish, 4 years down the line, they have gotten enough substantial amount of talent, and they come off a productive season to say, hey, if they surprise someone and land a free agent saying out of nowhere, let's say I called it first. That would be my type of ideal scenario. Another ideal scenario would be for essentially do what you do now, stack together this team as best you possibly can, and then just flat out tank. I know it's going to look horrible, it's going to look gaudy, it's going to look nasty, but it's needed. And let's just say somehow, some way, you don't come up with the number one pick. At least you get within top 3, top 5, way better than picking at 7th or 8th like you've been doing perennially for the past decade. So what's the worst that could happen? And now when you consider and guys, Taylor, I brought it up in the chat, knowing what's in being set in motion now, if that's the case, it would be a massive, massive disappointment if within the next few seasons of drafts between the following players, I'm just thinking about off the top of my head, whether it be obviously Imani Bates, but it's not just Imani Bates. It could be Mikey Williams. It could be Cade Cunningham. It could be Chet Green, BJ Boston. So many names, so many young players up and coming in high school right now, high school prospects that may not exactly want to feel like taking a year at school. They may want to feel like jumping straight to the G Leagues, jumping straight to the association itself. And if that's the case, then if you're a team in the, that's within that lottery pool, you have a good shot at the Cade Cunningham, at a Mikey Williams, at a Jalen Green, at a BJ Boston. Obviously I've listed Imani Bates as the top prize, so to speak, of what the coveted prize, what you want to get. But I'd say even he's not available. What's the worst that is it bad to say that the worst case scenario of drafting, dare I say, a Zaire Wade or a Bronny James or a Sharif O'Neal? Is that it's not that far out of the realm of possibility, but that's your backup C, D, E, and F options? That's not a bad worst case scenario to fall back on in my view. So in my view, Troy Weaver is doing this the right way. He's approaching this the right way. He recognizes and understands that, listen, we got to tear this thing down, salt the earth, and start anew.
Yes, we do. Darren, your analogy.
I really like what Troy Weaver did, and, it took a few days to sort of digest everything he did, sort of like what Ed said, a lot of moves were being made, a lot of signings, a lot of stretches, contract stretches. The biggest thing in terms of the draft, I really like Killian Hayes, big point guard. He's he doesn't jump out of the page as being super athletic, but neither is Luka Doncic. He's very crafty, does not turn the ball over. And I think I'm trying to make sense, the Mason Plumlee signing and giving him so much money. And, after deep analysis, Mason Plumlee is very, very good in the pick and roll. And that is something that Killian Hayes is very comfortable in, running sets out of the pick and roll. And Plumlee has been doing that his whole career. And I think Troy Weaver and the Pistons staff wants to make this first year for Killian Hayes as easy and as smooth and as painless as possible. And they're going to do that by doing things that he's comfortable doing, and he's comfortable in the pick and roll. And that's something Mason Plumlee has excelled in his career, is the pick and roll. So it'll be interesting to see that. I really like the draft pick, Sadiq Bey out of Villanova, sort of a 3-and-D long guy. In terms of Isaiah Stewart, I think that right now in the NBA it's a guards league, and it's a make-or-miss league, and it's a scorers league, right? So, passing on a guy like R.J. Hampton or Tyrese Maxey out of Kentucky, that's always one thing I'm going to think about. That stings a little bit, just because I want to see guys that can get their own bucket, that can create their own shot, get into the lane, get to their spots and score. Now, I like Isaiah Stewart. Coming out of high school last year, he was a top 5 recruit. 247 Sports had him as number 2 or 3. I think ESPN had him as top 5. So he was an absolute 5-star. He was a top 5 player across the board. And Izzo was actually very close to landing him before he chose to go to Washington. But the thing that Isaiah Stewart brings, and this stuff doesn't show up in the box score, he brings effort, he brings hard work, he brings intimidation, and he's going to bring you 100% every night. And I think for a young Pistons team, they want to sort of get back to that Detroit, that feel, that grit, that blue collar of just always working hard and And I think, when Isaiah Stewart comes to Little Caesars every night for a game, you're not going to question his work ethic, and that's going to wear off. And, I like them bringing back, refresh my memory.
Ellington.
Wayne Ellington. Thank you. Sorry, that for some reason that slipped my mind. I like them bringing back Wayne Ellington for a few things. One, he's a veteran that's a good locker room guy. He's known around the league as a very, very beneficial and positive locker room guy. And two, he brings a little bit of shooting, something the Pistons, that's a question mark for the Pistons going into the season. Who can hit the three ball? Langston Galloway's gone. Ellington has proved that he can shoot the three at a above average rate. And, for a guy like Killian Haynes, who likes to drive and penetrate and kick out, Wayne Ellington's sort of the perfect guy there. I also love Derrick Rose mentoring Killian Hayes. Mm-hmm. He could be gone halfway through the season, and quite frankly, I hope he is. I hope we can get a first-round pick for him because, Ed, as you said, the 2021 draft is extremely deep, and while this team, they're going to put guys out there that want to play, we need to tank, and I think they know that. We need to get a top 5 pick, and we need to continue to build because we're probably 2 years away from being 2 years away, I think. And
oh, yeah, absolutely.
I like the start of it.
Yeah, and if I could interject real briefly, to piggyback on your point about Killian Hayes, I have seen comparisons to James Harden. The way you described also, Darren, with his intangibles, dare I say, reminds me a little of De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox just got a big bag. Props to him, by the way. So if he can come out on the spectrum of not necessarily James Harden, right, but he can be a reliable guard who, again, gives you defense, knows how to facilitate properly, is smart with the basketball, truly knows how to run the floor like a point guard should and can, which is why I had my hesitant thoughts about LaMelo Ball. Let's say the Pistons were in that spot. Would you have been comfortable with taking LaMelo? I don't know, and I'm glad actually Troy Weaver didn't get to find out that situation for himself as well. But yeah, I really like what I see in Killian, and I think he can be one of those building blocks with Sekou Doumbouya, among others, with now apparently with Sadiq Bey, if we keep him long enough.
Right.
Those can be your core building block guys. Like we mentioned Taylor, like I mentioned it with the Red Wings, your young Bucks. This is what the Pistons have got to build now. They've got to build their stable now of young Bucks.
Absolutely, yeah. They got to get to the root, and they got to water this tree, and Killian Hayes.
Even the Tigers are coming around.
Right.
That's another example.
They got A.J. Hinch.
Right.
So Killian Hayes, I like his upside. Like I said, he doesn't make mistakes. He has a frame where he can put some weight on. They're going to teach him. He's a decent shooter. They'll teach him how to shoot. But
That'll come.
The one thing I did want to comment on, I did like. Oh my God, I'm slipping again. Who's the shooter we traded from Duke?
Kennard.
I don't know why I'm forgetting all these names.
Luke
but
Kennard.
Anyway, here's my thoughts on Kennard. I like Luke Kennard as a player, but at the end of the day, he is not a top 3 player on a championship team, and he was gonna demand big money next year when his contract's up. He was probably gonna demand $18 million plus. And right now with the Pistons rebuild, I don't like committing that kind of money over 5 years to a guy that is a good glue guy. On a contender like the Clippers, he's gonna fit in perfectly, but
basically, we got out of Kennard what we could have and should have gotten out of KCP. When you think about it,
yes.
Or Donovan Mitchell. Never forget.
Oh yeah,
Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, and Stanley Johnson over.
Trust
Devin
me,
Booker.
if we had Donovan Mitchell, we would not be trading him. I guarantee you.
Guys, we would have a backcourt of Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker right now if I had it the way I wanted it.
Oh,
right.
Shoot.
But
Shoot, maybe Darren Booker would be the one to lure Chris Paul here. How about that?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. But, that's neither here nor there, and every team can say that. Well, we pass on this guy, we pass on that guy. We got to play with the hands we're dealt, and I like Weaver. He's taking a home run swing, and it's better than not being active at all, So I like the effort. I like what he's doing, and like I said, it's just a start. I think we're 2 years away from being 2 years away.
Yep, so 2 + 2 is 4, and Ellington can be a good mentor, like you mentioned, Darren. He's a good locker room guy. He can spread the positivity around the locker room and stuff like that. So to college basketball we go, Head coach Tom Izzo was back with the team 2 weeks after testing positive for COVID-19. The Spartans beat the Eastern Michigan Eagles 83-67 at Breslin Center. Foster Lawyer, 20 points. They're home against Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the Big Ten Network. Used to be BTN, now it's the B1G Network. It's just Big Ten Network. For the Michigan Wolverines, they beat the Bowling Green Falcons 96-82 beforehand at Chrysler Center. Trey Diggs, 24 points and only 2 rebounds. Isaiah Livers, 17 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists, almost a double-double. Wolverines are home against the Oakland Grizzlies Sunday at 6 on the Big Ten Network. Now to college football. The Michigan State Spartans football team had their game canceled at the Maryland Terrapins. Head coach Mike Loxley tested positive for COVID-19 after several players have in the past. The Spartans are home against the Northwestern Wildcats Saturday at 3:30 on ESPN2. That one's going to be ugly, but we're going to go to Ed and Darren. Ed, not going to be pretty for the Spartans when they take on the Wildcats at Spartan Stadium in East Lansing.
No, it is not. And if you've seen how the defenses have performed, defensive performances for Michigan State ever since the win against Michigan, it has been just flat out ugly. Ugly. When you consider the fact that they got demolished by Iowa, just straight up demolished by them, and that they got shut out by Indiana. Now, again, Indiana, way better than that, than people give them credit for, than at face value, but still, shut out at home. Fans or no fans, how dare you get shut out at home? And now you're lucky to be coming off this break now here with the Maryland game being pulled the way it was. But my goodness, this team is just. I knew things were going to be a rough patch to start for Mel Tucker, but my God, what was I expecting? Was I off? Did I underestimate their crappiness? It's quite astonishing. It's like I underestimated how bad they and Michigan were going to be at the same time as well. I'm actually kind of impressed now when you look back on it. But defense is horrible. Offense is usual bad stuff. Rocky Lombardi has had chance after chance after chance. I think didn't they finally pull the plug? They went to a different kid now at QB.
Yes, they did. Peyton Thorne.
Right. So now they're trying him as an experiment to see what can he provide, what can he spark on this pathetic offense. But things have been.
I know.
It's hard to put into words, man. It's just hard to put into words because they don't have an identity. They can't run the ball, they can't throw the ball, they can't play defense. Like none of those valuable Michigan State trademarks that you've seen, whether it be under D'Antonio or not, it's just not there. Nowhere near present. Not even a hint of detection. The only measure of a soul that we saw that was against Michigan, and that's that. They have been dreadful ever since. So I can't really give you an absolute proper analysis of what to expect because we've already seen what we expected. This team is god-awful trash. And the fact that they beat Michigan should be even more pitiful and shameful. Michigan should be shamed even more for losing that game, knowing how MSU has turned out. So if you're going to go by score, because we're just cutting around the ends of the bushes here, my Big It predicted score is going to be, let's go Northwestern 28. MSU, please get some points. 3.
Yeah, I would say so. Darren, it's your turn. Go right ahead.
Ed pretty much hit it on the head, and I'm not going to take too long. Michigan State doesn't have an identity, and I said a couple weeks ago, the biggest goal for Michigan State this season is to find a starting quarterback for next season, whether it's Theo Day, Lombardi, this Kim guy. Northwestern looks good, and, they're coming in with momentum. I expect Northwestern to win. I don't expect them to blow them out by any means because, Northwestern plays old man football, very power, a lot of just in the trenches, up the gut. I like Northwestern probably like 35-10. I think State scores late against Northwestern's second team, but, I'd like to see Mel Tucker, start giving reps to the younger guys, the freshmen and the sophomores, because this season's a wash. We're already half over, I think, and they need to start filling in and figuring out who's playing where next season and, have some solidified starters going into next season. They have a nice young receiving core. They just got to find a quarterback to get them the ball.
Yeah. I'm going to go Northwestern 31, Michigan State 6. I'm going to go between the goalposts here. You guys' predictions here. Michigan State somehow gets 2 field goals, but no touchdowns. They can't move the football much. They just can't. For the Michigan Wolverines, like Ed touched on, they found themselves down 17-0 before Joe Melton got the hook and Kate McNamara refueled the offense. And Michigan somehow pulled a victory out of the hat and walked away with a 48-42 win in triple overtime over the Rutgers Scarlet Knights in Piscataway, New Jersey. The defense was beyond awful, except they made their final play to end the game. Now, Ed, I know you got a lot to say before we turn it over to Darren, so why don't you just get it all off your chest right now?
Oh my goodness, this game was like having a root canal to go through. Watching it live. Actually, not for me, thankfully. I'm not watching live. I had to watch the highlights because I actually fell asleep. And when I woke up through a haze of just, because I actually got in the flu shot. And, of course, that vaccine, it just, oh my goodness, just knocks you out. So, actually,
I had one too.
A blessing. Yeah, so it's actually a blessing in disguise that I was able to miss out because I think I would have had a hemorrhage watching that game. Are you kidding me? You go down 17-0 to Rutgers. Now, don't get me wrong. They have been. Don't let that one win, that lonely 1-3 record, or now 1-4 record. Don't let that fool you. This team is way better than that. You saw how they demolished Michigan State, which again, admittedly, is not that easy to, not that hard to do when you look at what everyone else has done this season. Apparently, you got to beat a Jim Harbaugh coach team to do that. Anyway, but Rutgers, the way they've gotten everything, the effort that they put in, is way different than what we've seen in different years under different teams. Vedral played his heart out. The whole team did, actually, when you think about it. Can't say enough or give enough props to what Rutgers has become compared to what they were. They are certainly on the up and up, and I would certainly say that if they keep this up, they can be seen, I would say, at least on equal with the Indiana, because I think it's fair to say Indiana is here, Rutgers is down here. So let's say Rutgers inches up and up and up. Let's say they get on bar to an Indiana. I think that would be a milestone ceiling for them until they get to the next one. Now, back to Michigan. Oh my God, the horrific start, down 17-0. Defense looking like absolute Swiss cheese. Horrible on third down. Can't get stops. Can't get off the field. I understand you're missing your two best pass rushers. Hutchinson's gone for the year. Kwity Paye, he's been gone for the past couple of games. I get that, but still, come on, give me something here. Give me some pressure on the quarterback. Give me some reliable secondary help. I knew there was going to be an eventual regression on the defensive side of things because all these guys you keep sending to the NFL one after another, eventually you're not going to find enough of those quality backups to them that can fill that gap that they hadn't left. So again, eventually some regressions was gonna come as a result, but this level, nowhere near expecting this. Yeah, let's go back at the track record over the past few games. Michigan State gives up over 400-plus yards. Indiana, another 400-plus yards given up. Wisconsin gives up 400-plus yards. And look at Rutgers. Oh, what do you know? 400-plus yards given up. Again, it's the same damn story and song every single week with this team and this defense. I am so glad that the offense now wants to play catch-up with the rest of the 21st century, but now all of a sudden the defense wants to inch back further and further and further through the years. I guess we're back 10 years exactly to where we were. We're in 2010. We're in Rich Rod's last year. The defense is porous as hell. They can't stop anybody. They can't, the only time that they can get a stop is if the other team's offense is either dead tired or they make a mistake, like what we saw in the last play with Vedral chucking into the end zone instead of ignoring the guy on the check down who could have easily gotten the first down, if not more, since it was a fourth down. So it requires that type of goof for your defense to look remotely passable and say, hey, look, see, we made a smart play. But in reality, you're still just horrible garbage. Now, I can say that there is a bright spot. It is that we saw potentially our new starting quarterback take the reins, and we'll hold on to them likely for the remainder of this year because Kate McNamara, my goodness, didn't he also get some garbage time too against Wisconsin? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, he did.
Yep.
Yeah, and he looked better than Milton then too. And I love Joe Milton. I love Joe Milton. I like the kid. I've sung his praises, so I'm not going to abandon him now and look like, I don't know what you're talking about. But I've been disappointed by him. I thought his cool demeanor was one thing. Apparently, it is another. Apparently it is not caring enough. Apparently it is not being able to make your reads. Apparently it's not understanding to show an urgency or a feel for what you're doing out there. It's just, granted, yes, I know you're missing parts of your offensive line. I get that. But Joe, you have been taking in this system like homework, like clockwork for how many years now? You've been riding the bench for how long? Waiting, chomping at the bits, waiting for your shot. Okay? Other dudes left because they thought they weren't going to get a spot. You stayed, you bided your time, and I commend you for that. But this was not the effort, this was not the result, the execution we were expecting upon you doing this. So, again, massive disappointment in that. But you got to do what you got to do. And if that meant benching his behind and bringing in Cade McNamara cold again for a second week in a row, and then he just goes in and does that, and that's what it takes to somehow, some way salvage this season, I'll be all for it. I don't mind getting a couple wins. I understand this is probably going to be seen as, like Darren said, a washed year, mega asterisk. I will be more than happy to give this one an asterisk, the way people want to give the Lakers championship an asterisk. Yeah, can we all, I think, Darren, you'll agree with me this too, can we give this season an asterisk for both our teams, please?
Listen, say no more. I'm good with that.
Oh, my good Lord.
Yes, please.
But apparently, and don't get me wrong, I think the two people that want this to be an asterisk even more are Jim Harbaugh and Don Brown. But frankly, I don't think that's going to help them in this regard. I think in this case, or at least one of them, time may be running out.
That's right.
And even though people are going to say, well, it should be Harbaugh, no, they're not going to buy out his contract to just dump him just like that. They're going to probably more than likely, if things do not improve the way they are, they'll just let his contract expire and will decide to amicably walk away on as coolest terms as possible. Basically, the Mike Babcock deal. If anyone's going to get whacked, I would say Don Brown would be more than likely that candidate.
He can't scheme anyone on defense.
No, he can't get stops. His secondary is looking poor. He's leaving his guys out on islands when he knows he can't get quarterback pressure. He knows that the secondary is weaker this year compared to years past. And you're just getting lit up. Lit up. Who the hell would have thought that Indiana and Rutgers would put 400-plus yards on you? Okay, and damn near 40 points from each of them. Okay, Indiana was 2 points away from 40, and Rutgers was just 2 points over that. So between that alone exemplifies in a microcosm what your problems are defensively. Again, I would expect Don Brown to get thrown under the bus if it came down to it to save Harbaugh's ass. And for what this may mean for Jimmy, I don't know, but it's damn sure not looking good right now. I hope he thinks about that. That'll be his food for thought as he enjoys his turkey tomorrow. And thank goodness he's not going to get another post-Thanksgiving weekend ass whipping this year. That'll just come in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and before Saturday's game against Rutgers, I did run through an article from CBS Sports. Players have defended Don Brown. I don't understand why.
You know how college kids do. These aren't, savvy, seasoned veterans in the NFL. These are kids, okay? They're right. Still under that mentality. They can't go
anywhere.
Yeah, it's that mentality and the belief of how, listen, coach did this, coach did for me. We're all one team. We can't abandon each other. I know it sounds rah-rah, the team. I get that. But trust, legit, it is legitimate. College kids think this way. So I can't really fault them too much for having that type of mentality.
It's different when you're getting paid. You can sort of say more when you're getting paid.
Exactly. Right. That's also the case as well. Because if you're getting paid, you don't have to worry about, obviously you still have to worry about playing time, but you ain't got to worry about more so on playing time on the pro level than you are at the college level. Because at college, if you say something, you're more than likely in the chance to get benched for saying something you're similar to what a pro player would say. So there is one caveat that I agree with Darren with.
Yeah, and this players defending Don Brown stuff, you pointed it out. Therefore, it's not supposed to matter. Yet Ward Manuel even listens to them, and he'll probably decide to keep Don Brown even longer. That's the fear that we're having in our minds. So with that being said, Darren, it's your turn.
Yeah, last week was just, needing 48 points to beat Rutgers in overtime is just absolutely embarrassing. And, it looks like this team has quit on Harbaugh a little bit. Don Brown.
They really quit.
They really did. And Don Brown, it's his time to go. And, I'm so tired of these coaches who just have been around for years and just keep getting recycled to different teams and new coaching and, oh, well, he's got a different scheme now. Let me tell you something. Let's get someone innovative and young and, up and coming with energy. Let's throw something different at the wall, because what you've been doing has not been working. Even Greg Madison before him was good, but he couldn't beat Ohio State. He couldn't beat the big boys. So this season's a wash. I do like Cade McNamara. He looks good, and he's a different style quarterback than Milton. Milton sort of is a gunslinger. He slings the ball in there. McNamara puts some air under his ball, and he lets his receivers, he gives his receivers a chance to go get it, which I kind of like, and it's just sort of a nice change of pace to see. Coming into the year, I had really high hopes with Joe Milton, as did everyone. We talked about his demeanor. After they beat Minnesota, I came on here and I said, this guy is all business. He just seems like he's mad at the world and he's ready to go. And Ed, you might be right. Like, maybe he just doesn't care enough. And his, he's very conservative in that aspect.
Very aloof.
Very aloof, just sort of like in the clouds. But, I still like his demeanor and, he's still one play away from going back in the game. So let's not hold our heads here. But, McNamara looks good. Now, is he a redshirt freshman or a sophomore?
I want to say sophomore, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was a freshman.
Okay, because I looked it up, and it said sophomore, but,
I'm going to look it up right now.
Year, so I don't know why they would burn a year, but...
Right, especially when you had more, guys. You had Patterson, you had Milton, you had McCaffrey, you had Peters even. So it would have made perfect sense to just redshirt McNamara.
He's a sophomore.
Interesting. Huh. That's sort of an interesting tidbit. But yeah, I think Harbaugh is definitely on the hot seat. He's going through a divorce right now. I'm sure he's having a lot of personal issues. But
ouch.
Yikes! I really did not know that.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to use that for some sort of sympathy, pity.
Me neither.
But still,
maybe he is an overrated coach. I don't know, but. Here's the thing. Is Michigan getting anybody better right now during this pandemic? If they fire him, is there a better option out there that would leave their current job to come coach Michigan? That's the question.
Meyer.
There should be.
Right. I mean, Ed, even if we gave Urban Meyer a blank check and told him to fill it in, I don't think he's coming.
I know. Wishful thinking.
No.
So
he probably hates the school.
Oh, man. So that's the biggest thing. This weekend, I think it's going to be interesting. I actually do think Michigan wins. Penn State just looks horrible, and James Franklin's the most overrated coach in the country, I think. I like Michigan 24-17.
And that predicted score is brought to you by Viget.
Yes, it is.
Download the app, referral code Stables with a capital S. Continue.
So that's where I'm at with Michigan. It's sort of a lost season at this point. Again, I think Michigan should start phasing in some of their younger guys for next year. And, they got to throw out the tape this year and hit the ground hard next year. It'll be very interesting what kind of coaching changes they make and what Harbaugh does and who the starting quarterback is. But we got to figure out, if you're a Michigan fan, who is starting the quarterback next year. And much like Michigan State, and then go from there.
Yep. Ed? How about you? I think Michigan wins that one, too.
I mean, you would have to say, right, this is an 0-5 football team that has gotten pimp-smacked for the better part of this entire season. You would think, but again, we thought another team had from the state of Michigan had a good shot against a team that was clearly undermatched for them, and then they went up and blew a joint in Carolina. Oh, don't worry, we'll get to their behinds in just a moment. But back to Michigan, on paper, you would think, this is a team that they got the better players. They're at home. Granted, their defense is atrocious. I just can't stop looking at that defense. If their defense was just a smidgen better, I would be on full hands on deck with you guys saying, Michigan's going to win. They're going to win going away. But I can't do that. Not when you've given up 440-plus yards of total offense in 4 straight games. Not to mention the fact that you've given up almost 40 points in one, almost over 40 points in another, and damn near 50 in a third. So until I see this defense being more balanced, not balanced, but more toned down, as in getting the hell off the field on third down, getting more turnovers, and not relying on a QB to throw a jump ball into the end zone to get one. Things like that. A little more pressure on the quarterback. Better recognition from your secondary so they don't get burned on every damn play. Making tackles. Can I do that too? Because that really pissed me off against Michigan State as well. Yeah, let's add that to the list. I know, it's never too early to get started on Christmas shopping, right? So let's add that. And offense, I want you to recognize that, listen, you're probably going to be in a shootout for the remainder of this season, and it's not going to be pretty, and you're going to be exhausted. So I'm going to need you to make every single damn possession count from here on out, limit your mistakes, get as much points as you can, productive drives. I'm talking moving the ball downfield. I'm talking first downs. I'm talking proper running game, and I think with Haskins getting more touches, that should be the case. I'm expecting McNamara to be realistic, though. I'm expecting McNamara to have his struggles as well. It's new. It's expected when you're a new QB testing out the offense, literally in the middle of a season. Some baby steps and bruises and bumps are going to happen along the way, so I'm preparing for that. As for the game itself, this game should not be this close. But I say Michigan 38, Penn State 31, if not 34. Oh God. That means that means I have to rely on them making a field goal kick. No, scratch that. So, yeah, it's going to be Michigan 35, Penn State 31.
All right. That predicted score is brought to you by Viget as well. My Viget predicted score is going to be Michigan 39, Penn State 29. I'm going to get in the middle again like I always do or usually do. Okay, so the Lions, they got blanked as well. Speaking of getting shut out, in Charlotte, North Carolina against the Carolina Panthers. First time since 2009 the Lions got bageled. Swift, Galladay, and Amendola all out due to injuries, which is no excuse. The coaching staff kept trotting out Peterson while on offense and had him go up the middle. The defense kept getting burned, especially Jeff Okudah and others in the secondary. And the Lions, with that loss, they're 4-6. Ed, we'll go to you, and then we'll go to Darren. Ed, no player development system.
And I also get yes, your three top performers on offense. Let's not undervalue what, especially Galladay and Swift, as well as Amendola to a degree, what they all bring to the offense. Those are key, vital roles that they play exceptionally well. That being said, there's no excuse for that type of performance from the offense. Is Swift, Galladay, and Amendola the reason why the offensive line looked absolute dog crap? Is that the reason why that this team that was this Carolina defense that was bottom 10 against the pass, bottom 10 against the run, and was absolute dead last in the league in terms of third down percentage? You mean to tell me that they became absolute monsters in third down?
No.
Was that the right? I guess missing those three players was the reason why for that. Or I guess missing those three players was the reason why our defense couldn't get a stop either in terms of making tackles, missing open field tackles, missing blown assignments on critical plays. And let's not forget the mistakes. That one of those, like the one big play that Stafford threw, was a deep ball touchdown, was the Marvin Jones, I think. That got called back for a penalty, completely killed the driving momentum, and then immediately, as soon as Carolina got the ball back, they ran down the field and scored. So that was essentially the game in a nutshell. I think the less we talk about that, the better I feel, because I don't want to be, not granted, I'm going to probably be torturing myself anyway watching this team tomorrow while I eat, but, I like to think about this game less and less. Because when you consider the fact that no Teddy Bridgewater, no Christian McCaffrey, and you still put up that performance? Oh, my goodness. It is such a good thing that things...
Same old Lions.
It's a good thing that
Same old Lions, exactly.
Absolutely.
Ed, I got nothing anymore, by the way, man.
Oh, yeah.
I just got nothing.
That's why I'm talking for you, because it's really a good thing that things outside of the sports world have really uplifted my spirits since the beginning of this month, because I would just be aghast and just frankly losing my mind watching this for both Michigan and Lions. Oh,
yeah, I remained calm throughout the entire game, and I knew this was going to happen, except the Lions got shut out. Wow.
I was expecting a loss. I was kind of expecting them to perform the way they did it, but 0 points. That's just embarrassing, man. You got to show more effort. Like, Prater missed a field goal. Everybody was bad. Stafford was bad. Prater was bad. The defense was bad. Coaching was bad. What else is new?
Right. And they're probably going to carry that over to Ford Field tomorrow on Thanksgiving against the Houston Texans. Fans and other podcasters wants to argue it's only the players' fault that they don't perform the way they need to, but it's also the organization that has no player development system and the coaches who cannot coach at all, especially Matt Patricia foremost. Now that being said, the Houston Texans Thursday at 12:30 on CBS. Darren, we'll start with you this time, then we'll go to Ed. Darren, what's your analysis?
Yeah, my analysis, and Taylor, we talked a little bit about this before the show. The Texans look better since firing Bill O'Brien. I still like Deshaun Watson. I think he is a good quarterback that has just struggled with a bad offensive line his whole career, much like Stafford, and hasn't really had a running game. I think Watson has a field day. I mean, look, if backup quarterbacks are having field days against us, a Pro Bowl quarterback should sort of do what he wants to do. I know the Texans are a little beat up, as are the Lions, but nothing that I saw Sunday from the Lions' effort tells me that they can change that in 3.5 days. With that being said, hopefully we get DeAndre Swift back. There's no Kenny G this week. Okuda's out. A few more injuries. I like the Texans. I think it's actually there's going to be points on the board, but I like the Texans 31-20.
All right. That predicted score is brought to you by Viget. Ed, your turn.
My turn on this is I expect Deshaun Watson to really show out and have a big game because it's national primetime audience. The whole entire country is going to be paying attention to this game, and trust me, if there's anything that Deshaun Watson knows how to do is play well when the whole nation is watching him. So keep a lookout for that one. Other than that, I think if David Johnson becomes David Johnson of 2 years ago in this game, then yeah, it's going to be a blowout. It's going to be early and ugly and over fast, which actually gives me and everyone else an excuse to get started on eating their food early and could probably get some shopping done as well. Now, if they don't do that and they actually know fundamentals such as play football and tackle the running back and not look lost on the field, then I think we're going to see a more competitive game. I'm not feeling too easy about a win, to be honest with you, because we've seen how this offense has performed. Forget about the defense. Let's look what the offense has done or what they have not done. Stafford, I think, is still looking uncomfortable. He has not looked like his usual self, even though he got injured to close out his seasons back-to-back years. He showed way better energy in those first halves than what he's done at any point for this year, and that's very worrisome and concerning for me. Now, if Stafford looks good, he shakes that off and performs at a level that I know that he can perform at, then we're off to a good start. I want to pick this as a loss, but knowing for a fact that Patricia is going to be coaching for his job tomorrow, and as much as I hate to say it, they are still only, 2 games out of that second wild card spot, so the slaps are going to be saying, like, man, if we win this, we still got a shot. And I hate that I'm going to be categorizing or aligning myself with that viewpoint for just briefly. But someone tells me they're going to show up, they're going to play out, it's Thanksgiving, and they're going to do whatever it takes to squeak out a win. As much as I so want to pick the Texans to win this game, I just can't. I think the Lions are going to do just enough to eke out a win. And my Viget predicted score is going to be Detroit 23, Houston 19.
All right. My Viget predicted score is going to be the Houston Texans 23 and the Lions 20. I think the Lions are going to play a little bit better than they did in Carolina, but the Texans, keep in mind, they're 3-2 since they fired Bill O'Brien. Before that, they were 0-5. The Texans, not perfect, but they've improved. The Lions haven't improved. I see the Texans winning that one by a close game. Again, the Viget predicted score by me, 23-20 Texans. Now, the article from ESPN's Michael Rothstein, headlining Barry Sanders' legal threat nixes beer trolling Detroit Lions. We'll go to Ed and then Darren after I finish here. Not going to be too long, we promise. A Detroit brewery had created a beer, same old lager, that seemed to poke fun at the Detroit Lions, which is okay. Soon after its debut, that beer is no longer around, which is a shame. The Detroit Free Press reported Monday that Eastern Market Brewing Company has stopped making and selling the beer after Hall of Fame running back Barry Sanders, whose image in 8-bit form was used on the can, had his legal team threaten to shut down production of the beer. The can for the 4.5 alcohol content beer had a football field with what appeared to be Sanders' likeness on it, with a lettering of the beer on the package in the same Honolulu blue and silver coloring that the Lions used. Sanders apologized, quote, to any fans that were duped, unquote, by thinking he was involved with the beer, insisting that he had no affiliation with the company. Barry Sanders on Twitter, at Barry Sanders, went on Twitter and said, quote, some of you may have seen this in the Free today, the Detroit Free Press, that is. I have no affiliation with this company, and they are using my image without any permission. My legal team is working through the process to shut this down ASAP. Apologies to any fans that were duped, unquote. The brewery had a Facebook post about the lager that has since disappeared from the brewery's page. There is also no mention of the beer on the Eastern Market Brewing website. The Free Press reported the description of the beer as, quote, this classic American lager is exactly what you expect. Light, crisp, and always leaves you wanting more. Just keep telling yourself the next beer will be the beer. A message left with Dane Bartskett, the managing partner of Eastern Market Brewing Company, was not immediately returned. The person who answered the phone at the number listed for Eastern Market Brewing said the brewery had no comment and declined to give his full name. Same Old Lager is a play on a familiar refrain around Detroit about the same old Lions after the team has another failing. Detroit has not won a playoff game since the 1991 season and hasn't won a division title since 1993. Now, to recap, if the brewery were to recreate the beer, and it can, then it would have to come up with a non-copyrighted image, maybe of a regular lion, except still with Honolulu blue and silver colors, but just not the NFL copyrighted protected Lions logo. But that being said, the Lions deserve to be trolled, but not Barry Sanders in any way, shape, or form, especially not by using his image without copyright permission. Mm-hmm. It defames the Hall of Fame running back. So, Ed, go right ahead.
Yeah, Taylor, you took the words right out of my mouth. I think also another factor to take into consideration, I think over time now, Barry, the relationship, the animosity that Barry might have had toward the team and the organization, it's more since mellowed out. It's well beyond water under the bridge, which is good for both sides because it was just ugly situation. It was like, you know, what the Red Wings went through was with the whole Sergei Fedorov deal after he left the team. Now, granted, they still haven't put his jersey in the friggin' Raptors, but I digress. So I think that's one aspect of Barry. Listen, things are like a person like old Barry, like from several years back, would have probably went along with that, saying, hey, you know what, this team wasted my career and all this. You know, a more different, bitter Barry Sanders could have done that, but this is a different one. This is a more mature Barry. This is a Barry that has been able to take things more into perspective and is more than willing to let bygones be bygones, has continued, has accepted that role of being that ambassador for the team, at the very least, for the sake of the fans, because he knows very well that the fans loved and missed him being there around the team for at least, you know, being around the fans for certain things or small stuff. So he's built up and wants to continue on upon that reproach. So things like this would be potentially harming, not just for his likeness, but also for that mindset, that good rapport that he's built up with the franchise and the organization for the past several years now. So Barry had multiple legitimate reasons for doing this. Obviously, the chief among them, like, why are you using my likeness, A, without permission, and A, in this manner? So he was more than within his right to sick his lawyers on him.
Yeah, absolutely. Darren, what say you about this?
Oh, man, I'll keep it short and sweet. Any way to take a dig at the current Lions organization, I'm all in favor for. And, you know, it's too bad Barry had to be brought into this, but, you know, attack the franchise. Don't go after, don't bring specific guys into it. Just attack the incompetence of the franchise, and I'm all for it.
All right. So that is our story of the night. And our closing statement, we go to Ed, and then we go to Darren. Ed, you go first.
My closing statement for this week is a little bit of a mix from what we see with our teams locally and a little bit outside the world, outside the realm, outside our bubble, if you want to use the term for this. Obviously, if you've haven't been living under a rock within the past couple of days within the state of Michigan, we have seen more increases of, if you want to call it, restrictions, shutdown, whatever you want to call it. But case in point, the governor is saying, listen, we got to table back on this until things get better, because cases have been spiking now at a new high. obviously you're going to see pushback no matter what side of the aisle you agree on. But it was very disappointing and, quite frankly, embarrassing to see Matthew Stafford's wife, Kelly, go out on Instagram, on social media, and post a video where she essentially called, saying she was done living in this dictatorship of what she calls the state of Michigan. And I'm just saying, like, Kelly, please just think about this from your perspective. You are the wife of an NFL quarterback that's making tens and if not hundreds of millions of dollars, and you are living in a special, pristine mansion with your husband and your kids and your privileged bubble, and for you to basically have a Karen episode was more than embarrassing. It was flat out disappointing. When you saying, I don't like doing what I'm being told to do with regards with wearing a mask or socially distance or, try to stay away from certain things to prevent more hotspots from outbreaking, you could compare that to tyranny. Well, it's quite funny that you would say it, considering the fact that you said this while recording from your car, a vehicle for which you are mandated to wear a seatbelt in at all times. It's quite ironic that you would fail to mention that. It's also quite funny that you say, like, this pandemic, this restrictions is going to do nothing more but kill small businesses. So why do you say that when 30 minutes later you go on and take your ass down to go shop at Target? That's the type of that's the perspective someone who is oblivious, who may not be getting the full picture, and the optics of it is just looking very, very bad on you. Now, I have had my problems with the things that Kelly has said before in the past, and I've also commended her. And Taylor, you heard me, gush on end about I thought she did in terms of what she, and of course what her husband has done with the Black Lives Matter movement. That's always going to be appreciated. But there comes a time, though, when you have to understand that there are things that we have to sacrifice or put in better perspective what we're going through. Like, Kelly, not everybody lives in your house. Not everyone has your money. Not everyone has the spots that you're doing. Yes, we're all tired of this. We're all fatigued by this. I'm fatigued. My mother's fatigued. My grandmother's fatigued by this. We all get it. But there's a reason why this disease is still spreading the way it has, because we don't have the right leadership, number one, and we don't have enough informed people to be able to follow said leadership. Now, hopefully next year, with the new year rolling in and new leadership finally rolling in, we'll get this more under control. But for now, helping spread rhetoric like this is not only wrong, it is potentially dangerous, because let's not forget, Kelly, the governor just went through a potential kidnapping plot. Do you really want to stoke those flames and fires right here and now? No. The best proper message is to say that, yes, while I may be disappointed and disagree with the governor, I understand the method of what she's trying to do by keeping us together, by saving our lives. That should be the message of what you're understanding here. So, unfortunately, she missed the mark with that, but she has now backpedaled and moonwalked on those comments faster than Michael Jackson. Okay, so hopefully Kelly took this and took the reaction and blowback she got as a humbling, well, not say humbling, but a lesson to understand that, listen, you're in a much different and much broader perspective than everyone else. Not everyone's going to like what we're going through right now, but we have to understand things have got to we got to make things better before everything else got to get better. So Kelly, that would be my message to you. That would be my closing statement, my remarks to you.
Yep. Glad that's all taken care of. That was a no-no. Darren, your closing statement. Go ahead.
Yeah, Ed, I agree with you. My closing statement, I hope everyone stays safe during Thanksgiving, enjoys their Thanksgiving if they're with family, if they're staying away, to protect some of the elder people in their family. I hope you all enjoy Thanksgiving. You are with your loved ones or in contact with your loved ones. You watch football or relax or do whatever you want to do on Thanksgiving. I think in terms of sports, I see the Lions losing a close one in the same old Lions way. I see Michigan winning a close one, and I see Michigan State losing by double digit. I'm happy college basketball is back. Michigan basketball looks good. I know it's early, but I like the program Juwan Howard's building. Michigan State also looks deep this year. I'm just hoping everyone has a really nice Thursday and a great weekend.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. You too as well. So Speaking of the Lions, my closing statement is this. When you're the Lions and you have no player development system or department, then you're wasting a lot of player talent such as Matthew Stafford and Ndamukong Suh, Ziggy Ansah, Eric Ebron, Marvin Jones Jr., Marvin Hall, Everson Griffin, Jeff Okudah, Tracy Walker, Kenny Galladay, DeAndre Swift, Tease Tabor, and Frank Ragnow. It doesn't matter if you're trying to clone and try to be as great as the New England Patriots are, which you have failed miserably at for going on 3 years now. It doesn't even matter how many of your players are injured in one time span, which is always a weak excuse. Wasting player talent by having no player development system or department is exactly one of the detrimental things that the Ford family and their general managers and coaching staffs from the past and present have done to their roster and to their fan base. That's my closing statement. Before we go, we want to remind everyone to download the all-new social sports app called Big It, which influences more and more people to love sports. Enter the referral code STABLES with a capital S and a B in the middle of the word, STABLES with a capital S and a B in the middle. Download the Big It app and enter the referral code STABLES with a capital S and a B in the middle. Available on the Apple App Store and Google Play. Gentlemen, excellent job as always. That concludes another fine episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, Primetime Edition on Stables Media. Prayers to Frank Vasner and his family. We'll be back next week for Ed Smith and Darren Weiss on behalf of Frank Vasner. This is Taylor Phillips signing off. Thanks very much for listening, downloading, and sharing. And remember, the truth is out there. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Power to the people. Hit it with a high, and we rest our case. Stay safe and happy Thanksgiving.
The Michigan Sports Truth Podcast does not represent or defame any of the teams it covers, nor does it represent or compete against any mainstream media in the state of Michigan. It is also not for entertainment or debating purposes. It only detects, exposes, and reveals honest, actual, and hidden truth, facts, and statistics about them. And it is for every sports fan's own good because the truth is out there.